Alright, so this is kind of weird. I'm not used to talking to myself. I've never done YouTube before, so we're just gonna get right into it. So this is my truck. We started building it last year, the beginning of last year, and we made quite a bit of progress on it. I got some old footage of it. I got some old pictures and whatnot from whenever we first started. I was planning on starting this YouTube channel a long time ago, but never got around to it. The races started just flowing in, and we were just trying to get ready for them. And the truck's already been to 3 different tracks in 2 different states, and you know, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's fun and we like it. You know, we have a good time with it. So we're just gonna jump right into this. I got some videos right now I'm gonna show you and some pictures of what it was, and then I'll do a walk around of the truck and let you guys see it for what it is now.
Come on, you can come. Dozer's always got to come outside, see what's going on. So this is the truck right here. It's an 85 C10. It's a pretty straight, pretty clean truck. And here's the engine I've been building. On the truck itself, I cleaned up the firewall. I had these plates made by one of my good friends there and there to delete the heater core and the blower for the AC. Or not the heater core, I'm sorry, the whole AC assembly there. I got some wiring to clean up, but the wiring is very basic on this truck. It's not a very difficult thing to do. We painted everything last weekend and kind of got it, you know, better looking, better than it was. I wanted the fender wells out because we are racing this truck, and I would like to have access to everything here towards the engine side, and it's just easier. My dad's truck doesn't have the fender wells on his race truck, and I really liked how that was. So yesterday we were trying to marry this transmission up, and it wasn't working out because my cross member is too far back, so I had to cut the driver's side of the cross member to allow it to slide forward, because the cross members on these trucks in the 80s are really weird. They wrap up on, they go from this side up underneath in the C channel of the frame, they go across underneath the transmission, but then they go under the frame and wrap up on a 90, and they bolt to the side of the frame there. So I'm just cutting off that 90 and then sliding it forward to marry it right now. But the cross members moved up. These holes were already pre-drilled, so this side fit just fine. Over there is where I had to cut it, but the tranny mount's all in. Everything is supported good. This part of the cross member is what 90'd up, and it went and bolted into these holes here. So I just had to cut that off, slide it forward, drill new holes, and now that's good to go. Got the motor mounts bolted in and tight. Now I just need to get a drive shaft built, because this drive shaft here was too short to begin with anyways, with the cross member being in its normal location. So I had it was only going in probably about to right here, so I needed a longer one anyways. So I'm gonna call Phoenix Rack and Axle tomorrow and get a price on a drive shaft. Last time I went through them, it worked out pretty good. So 250 bucks wasn't too bad. But now what I'm working on is this fuel cell here. I got it all cut out, got the AN fitting. I got one plug and one feed line coming out, so I'm getting ready to run my fuel lines right now. Hopefully I can get it done in a couple hours or so. It's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, because I got to mount the fuel filter and the fuel pump on the outside of the frame. So basically it's going to be in front of that shackle right there, coming through one of those holes. There's a bigger hole somewhere right there, either up and over the frame or through that hole or something. I'll figure something out. So got to do that, and after that, once I get it ran all the way to the front, I'm going to work on getting the battery box mounted. Okay, so working on the fuel cell still. just got that area kind of cleared out for the battery box because I'm working on that next. But there's the 1/2-inch fuel line coming out, 90ing down on the elbow. Okay, so that's the fuel line, hard line going over there, coming out there. And this is, it's coming up over the frame by the spring shackle, spring mount, and then coming into the filter, the pump, and then it goes back up and over the frame. And then get up under here, comes up over the frame and runs all the way to the front. So fuel line, or fuel system, is about 80% done. And then I gotta find a bracket for the fuel regulator and see where I'm gonna be mounting that. So I'm thinking on the block right here, or on the head right here somewhere. I want one of these accessory holes because I'm not using any of those accessory holes. So eventually this will be bent downwards over and then up. It'll loop up to here, and then I got steel braided line for the outlet that goes up into the carburetor. So yep, that's where the fuel line's at for right now. I'm gonna get started on the battery box and the power cable coming up, or positive cable, I'm sorry. And then I have a junction box that I'm going to be mounting somewhere in this area. I'm not sure where yet. And then off of that will be another positive cable that goes from the block to the starter right there on the terminal. So we're getting there. It's coming along. Okay, so I guess first of all I should start with how I got the truck. My dad and my uncle had this truck. They were bouncing it back and forth between each other, buying it and selling it. And then it wound up in my dad's backyard for about 5 or 6 years. Windows rolled down, plenty of monsoon seasons ran through the whole interior of the truck. It was pretty much on its deathbed out there in the middle of the desert. So my uncle, it was in his possession at the time, and he hit me up and was asking if I wanted to buy the truck. And so I told him yeah, depending on the price, and I was able to pick it up for $1,500. So it was a really sweet deal. I mean, basically body wise, as you see the truck, that's exactly how I got it, minus the back window. The back window was a slider and I wanted a solid one. So the interior is the same. I really spent a lot of time cleaning up the interior, but it has all of the factory interior in it. It's still a bench seat. Could use a new dash. It could use new everything, honestly, but for right now it is what it is. It's 100% complete as far as the interior goes. I'm not messing with it anytime soon. But it's got power windows, power locks. None of the original gauges work, but I have my oil pressure and my water temperature gauge down there. So overall it's in really good shape. There's not really much cancer on it, except for, you can kind of see right here, a little bit on the doors. I think there was a stripe, you know, the Chevys have that go across there, the little plastic pieces that was on the truck at one point in time, because it's on this side too in the same exact spot.
I had the mirrors on it, but I didn't like the way that those mirrors looked, so I just took them off. And once I get it registered for the street, I'll eventually put some more lower profile mirrors on it, maybe off of a Nova or something like that. But my whole intention with doing this channel is to show you guys that you don't have to have a garage, you don't have to have a shop, you don't have to have every single badass tool that there is to build a car. I did this right where the truck is sitting. The whole entire truck was built right here in the driveway. As you can tell, looking at this Blazer, I'm not afraid to tear shit apart. But so I basically started with a shell, as you guys saw in the previous video I showed you, and the motor was a lot different. I've done a lot of different things to the motor just within the last 7 months. I rewired the whole truck because it wasn't really wired safely when I first had the truck going. But here it is. It's just a 350 small block. It's got AFR heads. It's got a 630 lift solid roller camshaft, but now with the new upgraded rocker arms, I went from a 1.5 ratio to a 1.6, so that puts me somewhere in the range of 657 or something like that after you subtract the valve lash. So the intake's different. That's a Super Victor that I ported myself. So the other thing about it is, like, I did everything I possibly could myself. I didn't want to source anything out. I didn't want to pay a machine shop to build my motor. You know, the block that I bought the block for 250 bucks from a dirt track guy, and it was in really good shape. And you know, I checked the bores, and I just ball honed it, to be 100% honest with you guys. I know that's not the right way to do it, but that's the way I did it. This channel is not about how-tos. I'm just letting you guys know how I do things. Was I sure it was gonna work? No, but it did. So it had different pistons in it with the rotating assembly that I bought. So it has a cast steel crank. It's got shit, I forget the number of the forging on the rods, but it has forged rods, forged I-beam, eagle rods, eagle crank. It's got now it has a Molly, forged Molly 41, or what is it, 41 or 4340 or something like that, forged piston. It's got a dome on it, so we got 12.5 to 1 compression now. All of the spacer stuff going on here, that's all new stuff, minus the billet one. So I had the billet on there, but I added this guy, and then there's the nitrous plate. That's the other thing, I got nitrous on this truck as well. There's so much to cover. I guess I really don't know where to start, but that's the general idea of the motor. I did all the electrical myself. I built this panel. You can see I got the MSD box, I have the 2-step, I have my nitrous controller. This is a leash electronics board for a nitrous trans brake interrupter. It's awesome. If you guys are gonna run nitrous with a trans brake, I highly advise you guys get that board. I got 5 relays here, the fuse block, and this is what's called a clean negative bus bar. So all of my wiring, all my switches are negative triggered, so all of these guys run off of when the negative connection is made, not when a positive connection is made. That's my Hurst quarter stick. I love that shifter. I won't put another shifter in any other car that I build. It'll be that type of shifter. And so the way I have the shifter mounted up is I built this pedestal that it's sitting on. So this black part here goes all the way across. I welded the little tab on here. That's my trans brake button. And then I took square tubing and ran it down here, welded it on a 90-degree angle there, and then I can't remember what I did there. Yeah, so see, I have a plate. Yeah, I got a plate right there, and then I sent 2 bolts through the seat bracket. That way, because I'm not the only one that drives this truck, so you know, if someone gets in there that's shorter than me or whatever, they can move the seat forward and the whole shifter will slide forward with them. So that's how I did that. The slicks are considered big tire here in Arizona. They're 29.5, 10.5, DO6. So these have been the first set of slicks that I had on the truck. We've still been running them strong. I don't know if you guys can tell from way back here, but those are 5/8 studs. I got Moser axles with 5/8 studs. It's a little overkill for the amount of power that I'm doing with this truck right now, but I had a mishap at the track and had an axle come out. So right here you can see on this slick, kind of looks like a little bit of a radial now. No, that's where it came up here and started digging into the bedside. You can see all the rubber. That's actually from when that happened. And yeah, I got the factory 10 bolt in the truck, so it had C-clips. It had the C-clips in there, and so when the axle broke, it just walked itself right out. But now I got 31 spline Moser axles with C-clip eliminators, so that won't be happening again. And then I have, I know I don't say it on there, but that's supposed to be a Moser diff cover. Looks like I got a little bit of a leak at the bottom there, but it has the deflection bolts, you know, the little deflection supports. And then I have the 9-way Calvert Racing. See, it didn't start out with those shocks. I had shocks off of some kind of Mopar car, and they were like all the way up in their travel. There was only about maybe an inch of the piston showing at ride height. So and I got, of course, the Caltrac bars, but you know, all this got upgraded. I made that little plate right there for my on-off switch and ran the power all the way to the front. My battery goes right there, and I have that long ground cable there. This guy, I have this long ground cable here because I got another battery that I'm going to be mounting right here. So that's going to just cross over from there to here, and then I have a power cable that'll do the same thing, and then I'll be running off of 2 batteries at that point. This fuel cell here, I got it at a swap meet. There's a couple of things on this truck that I had gotten at a swap meet, like the old intake, this guy here, and then I bought shit that I ended up not even using, so it was mostly a waste of money. And this is where my nitrous bottle mounts. I got the feed line that goes down and all the way up onto the firewall, and then these are the transducer wires, and then these two, this is a ground and power for my bottle heater. So transmission's a turbo 400. It's a pretty nice piece, actually. It wasn't at first, but now that it's rebuilt, one of my buddies rebuilt it. He did a great job. I don't know if we can see it or not, but it's got the deep pan on it. He set it all up for the trans brake to actually work properly. It wasn't working right before, but now that that's all squared away, I had a drive shaft made through Phoenix Rack and Axle, and they always do a great job for me over there. I'm on the east side over here, East Mesa, but I drive to Phoenix for them. So but yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what we got going on here. I'm really proud of this motor because I did all the work myself, 100%. I built it from a bare block, and it runs really well. So we've been hitting it with nitrous. As you can tell, I have just the little tiny mainline kit, but that works for me right now. You know, it's plenty of nitrous for right now. We've been talking about putting 2 kits on it, but you know, the issue is the motor is a powerful motor, but the truck is really heavy. So we're combating the weight of the truck with such a small cubic inch motor, trying to get it to go down the track. But
Yeah, I built all my brackets for the radiator. I forgot to paint those ones down there though. You can kind of see them with those 3 screws in there. They got really rusty really fast because I've had this motor in and out probably 3 times already just in the past year from doing upgrades and whatnot. But got a Durrell fan. It's a push or pull that we mounted on there. That's just a Summit electric water pump. These are my fuel regulators. They actually go like that on the head. I took them off because I have other stuff that I've been adding to the motor that I had to take this off and see if this side of the head was going to work better, because I just got an aerospace vacuum pump for it. So that'll be in a different video that we'll be putting that on. So yeah, the wiring, it's pretty crazy looking, but it all works, and it works perfect. So I'm really happy with the way that the wiring came out. I always used to be afraid of wiring, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to deal with it at all. But after learning it and understanding how it all works, it made it a lot more simple to do. These headers are, I'm thinking they're way too small for what I'm doing here. They're 1 5/8". I'm looking for more around 1 7/8 or 2 inch. But for right now, they're fine. All the fuel line is -8, I believe. Yeah, -8, all the way up to the, I just got this guy on here. I used to have a 3/8 on there, but now it's 1/2 inch line there too. So there's my nitrous solenoid and my purge solenoid. Then the purge goes up. I drilled a hole and it comes up through the valance right there. The carburetor is a 850 Brawler, and it gave me a little bit of trouble at first, but now that I got everything dialed in, it runs really well. You guys might be wondering why I have so many spacers stacked. I bought a Lexan hood scoop that eventually we're going to be cutting a hole right there. That's going to be another video as well. We'll be cutting a hole in the hood. Before, with just the billet spacer, I didn't like how close the carburetor was to the hood. I didn't feel like I was getting a sufficient amount of cold air with it being under the hood and that close to the hood. So I wanted to raise the carburetor up, cut a hole in the hood, and get a Lexan scoop mounted. So that came in last week, and I just been waiting on, I really don't know what I've been waiting on, but it's honestly, it's just been hot with work, and I got my kids, I got 5 kids, so it's kind of rough to get around to this kind of stuff. My wife works weekends, so on the weekend I really don't have time to wrench on the truck, but I'll be getting it figured out. Now that I'm starting this channel, it'll motivate me probably a little bit more to get things done. I just got that installed, the ATI super damper. For those of you that are thinking about getting one of these, just be prepared that you might have to hone out the bore that slides over the crank snout, because it may not fit, because that one didn't fit. I had to take it down to the same buddy that rebuilt my transmission for me, and he has a lathe, thankfully, and he was able to take off, well, I think it was like, I don't even know, less than 5 thousandths. I mean, it was almost nothing that he took off, but it worked. And so the radiator is just off of Summit. A lot of these parts are off of Summit, guys. The camshafts, the comp cam, I just had the motor out a week ago, and it's I replaced the head gaskets. I noticed that I had an issue with the valve train. The rocker arms were rubbing the poly locks, so I called Scorpion because I got Scorpion rockers. So they told me to send them over to Florida. I sent them out there. They went ahead and told me I got a bad batch, and basically they're going to send me a brand new set. So I asked them, you know, if you're sending me a brand new set, can you send me 1/6s and I'll just pay the price difference? And they're like, oh, well, no price difference. We'll send you 1/6s. And I was like, all right, right on. So we got the 1/6s on there. I put lash caps on there. I advise, if you're gonna have a high performance motor, just do lash caps. It's cheap insurance. I had the body of the old rockers were actually touching my retainers, and that's recipe for dropping a valve if your locks get popped out of there. But lash caps will raise you up about 80 thousandths, and then I ended up having to go with a 100 thousandths longer push rod, and so after that we had her up and running again. My shocks on the front, God only knows how old they are. That's another thing that we're gonna have to update. I'm really hoping that I can get some money for some double adjustables in the back. That way I can maybe see if I can put those 9-ways up here on the front. That would be pretty cool, because those are just single adjustable. But let's see what else. It's got a high volume oil pump, Melling oil pump. Full MSD ignition, obviously. I'm sure you guys can tell. I built all the wires myself, so that was the first. I never really messed with building the wires. A lot of what I did on this truck is a first. I've never built a race car before, and from the condition that this truck was in when I got it, I would basically call it a complete rebuild as far as drivetrain and whatnot. So with the vacuum pump, we have this Panovac system on here, and the last time we were out and I sprayed nitrous on it, it just blew oil right through the valve covers, down that hose, out in the header, and it was just smoking like a freight train. I thought I hurt the motor, but luckily the motor's fine, and it's just, it has too much positive crank pressure, or crankcase pressure, so I went ahead and bit the bullet and got the vacuum pump. So, and yes, it still has power brakes. It works off of the brake booster. I did connect it to the carburetor. Even with the camshaft that I got, it still stops on a dime. I don't understand it, but it must be pulling good enough vacuum, because it stops no problem. So I'll go ahead and fire it up for you guys and do a walk around. Dozer's probably gonna take off running. She hates this truck. So yeah, it's a little rowdy. You can see when I press the trans brake button here and the power of the truck is on, you see that blue light come on and off. That's on that leash electronics board. So that's actually, that light coming on indicates that the trans brake is on. So if I were to hit the gas all the way down, like, let me see here, arm the nitrous system. All right, so the trans brake is on. Hit the gas all the way on. That second light indicates that the solenoids are, they're about to have power sent to them. So I let go of the trans brake, and that third light that came on completes the circuit for the nitrous. And then you let off the throttle and the wide open throttle switch deactivates, and then the nitrous shuts off. So it's a pretty simple system. It's not that complicated. If I can figure it out, you guys can figure it out for sure. So I did all the tint myself, which was not an easy task. I probably won't ever do that again. I got Stroud seat belts, and what I did for that back here was I took some pretty thick walled tubing. I went and bought some of that, and then I had this 3/16 thick flat stock, and I went ahead and welded, cut these on a 90 degree here, and welded them all together, welded them to the flat stock, bolted it together. Let's see, how did I do that? Yeah, so this bolt here and then that bolt there, I actually had to drill a hole there and drill a hole there through the bed, so that way I could get, I don't know if you guys can see that, that way I could get them bolts in there. So now all you gotta do is stick a socket through here if you ever need to take it off. But the truck is gonna eventually be caged. It needs to get caged because right now we have to run it slower than I would like to because I don't have a cage. But we'll get there, one thing at a time. Even though I change 10 things at a time, we'll eventually get to the point to where we'll have a full cage. I'm gonna put a 10-point cage in it, so it'll hopefully cert to a 950. Not saying the truck is gonna run a 950 anytime soon. It definitely is nowhere near that right now. And honestly, even with how slow the truck is, it still gets a ton of attention. I'm actually really surprised with how many people like this damn truck. You know, on the Friday night drags and the drifting drags and Saturday night drags, it gets a lot of people coming up and looking at it, because I think people don't really expect to see a truck like this leave as hard as it does. And it does leave hard, and it'll get out there pretty good. The fastest pass we've had on it so far was an 1103 at 123 miles an hour. So it runs pretty good. You know, the other full-size trucks out there are typically LS trucks, and those guys look at me like I'm crazy. Can't believe that it's just a 350 in there. And that was my biggest thing. You know, I had plenty of guys ask me, well, why not LS swap it? Why not put twin turbos on an LS swap and blah blah blah? Well, I never honestly liked LS motors to begin with, and there ain't nothing like a conventional headed 23 degree small block Chevy. So it's what I grew up around, it's what I know, it's what I love. So I went with it. When I first started building this motor, because I could also get asked a lot, you know, why not a big block, or why if you built a 350, then why not stroke it to a 383, or why not find a 400 block and, you know, build a 406 or a 421. Which at the time, yeah, you know, I understand what everybody's telling me, but at the time this block was available, this block was in great condition, and it's what I had the money for at the time. You know, this all didn't happen overnight. You know, this thing took, you know, I built it faster than probably most builds happen. I built it in about 8 months, but the way you see it right now, it wasn't done in 8 months. It's been since I started in March of 2022 till now is how long it took to get it to this point. I mean, just up until recently, I barely got these headlights that are decent headlights on it. So before, they were like all cockeyed. This one was pointing down, that one was pointing up. It was all the two of them were broken, like shattered broken. So it's been a lot of trying to figure out where we're gonna place the money and how. You know, nitrous bottles ain't cheap. You know, you're gonna spend $310 shipped for a nitrous bottle. You know, I got 3 of them right now, but I want to compete with this truck, so I need to, you know, if I'm going to run it on nitrous,
then I need to have a sufficient amount of bottles, and so there was just other places that money needed to go. We're going to this again. I took it to Vegas last year for the Streetcar Super Nationals, so I'll be keeping you guys posted while we're out there. Make some videos of other cars as well, you know, not just the truck. But and then I don't know if you guys know who Jimmy Dale is. He's one of the guys for Nitrous Express, but he sells these little wings. So we got Jimmy Dale's little wing on there. We don't go fast enough for a big wing yet, so all we need is that little wing. But yeah, so that's about it. I mean, these wheels here, we got them off of Jags, and they're $98 a piece wheels. I drilled out the lug holes to fit the 5/8 studs, and then I drilled out each and every tire screw hole, and then, you know, it was that easy. I just built a template out of cardboard. I split it directly in half and then split it in all the sections, you know, so it has the same amount of screws on the inside as you see here on the outside. So on the back side it has screws as well. But yeah, so I'm excited to take it to Vegas. We're having issues right here with this intake leaking, and I tell you what, I mean, I really sealed it up this time. This is like the second or third time that I've sealed up the intake, and it still leaks. So I don't know if the intake isn't, you know, I don't know if it's warped or something like that, but we'll have to look into maybe getting a new intake, which is a bummer because I just spent a bunch of hours on that intake porting it. But after all these changes, and we took it out to the track last week, it pulled off his personal best naturally aspirated. So with this setup, the way you see it off nitrous, so on just motor it went 1205 at 111. So I was pretty stoked about that, because prior to, on a really nice day in March, the best pass was a 1225. And then anytime after that, in bad air or hot air or whatever, it was only doing 1240s. So to drop down to a 1205, that was pretty huge for me. But yeah, so that's about it, guys, for right now. Front runners are Morosos, and then those are just Weld drag lights on the front. The truck is about 4,000 pounds, so we're asking a lot of the small block to try to drag 4,000 pounds down the track. But all right, guys, well, anyways, thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe. We're gonna have a lot more videos coming, so don't miss out. All right.